Lily and the Journey to Rescue the Dogs from Slaughterhouses in Vietnam. Lily is an American girl, passionate about traveling and exploring new places. After hearing many compliments about Vietnam, she decided to set off alone, hoping to learn more about the culture and the people there. She had planned for a long trip, visiting both large cities and peaceful rural areas. One morning, while Lily was strolling through the old quarter of Hanoi, she unexpectedly turned into a narrow alley. This alley was very different from the large, noisy streets. The air here was cool, but there was something that made Lily feel uneasy. She continued walking deeper, reaching a busy market where vendors were selling all sorts of goods, from vegetables and fruits to fish and meat. Suddenly, Lily stopped when her eyes caught a sight that made her heart tighten. She saw metal cages packed with dogs, and they looked at her with frantic eyes. Some dogs were tied together, while others lay still in the cages, unable to move. This sight was something Lily could never have imagined, like a nightmare unfolding right before her eyes. She looked closer and realized that these dogs were not being kept as pets. These animals were imprisoned, waiting for their turn to be slaughtered for meat. The anger and heartbreak inside her made it impossible to stand still. Lily walked closer, unable to take her eyes off the dogs, who seemed to be pleading for help with their desperate gazes. They were like souls trapped in cold metal cages. A vendor standing nearby saw her staring for so long and said, "These dogs, they make a delicious dish, madam. People love to eat them." His words felt like a knife stabbing deep into Lily's heart. She could hardly believe that such a place existed, where innocent animals were slaughtered just because humans wanted to eat their meat. Lily felt a deep, indescribable pain in her heart. She began to feel scared, unsure of what to do. Was there anyone who would help these dogs? Could she do anything to change this situation? As Lily stood quietly, lost in thought, a young man walked by, noticing the confusion on her face. He smiled and said, "You do not have to be afraid. We will help you." He introduced himself as Min and quickly struck up a conversation with Lily. Min explained that this was not an uncommon phenomenon, but a part of the culinary culture of some people in Vietnam. However, not everyone supported this practice. Min was one of the people trying to change the community's mindset and rescue the dogs from their tragic fate. Lily felt a sense of relief in her heart. Min had spoken about a group of animal lovers who were fighting to protect the dogs. They had helped thousands of dogs, but changing the habits of those in the dog meat trade was a huge challenge. However, Lily could not ignore what she had witnessed. She decided that she would not turn away, but stay and learn more about the situation. A strong urge began to form within Lily. She couldn't just stand by and do nothing. She wanted to do something, find a way to help these dogs. But did she have the strength to do it? Lily felt her heart stop when she heard Min talk about the situation of the dogs being slaughtered for meat. Although Min had said that he and his group were working hard to change the community's awareness, Lily could not understand why some people could treat innocent animals like that. She felt a fire of anger and compassion rise within her, and she could not just stand still and turn a blind eye. Min saw the indignation in Lily's eyes and understood that she was not just a curious tourist, but someone who genuinely wanted to help. He began to tell her about his journey and his group's efforts to rescue the dogs. Min explained that his group started small, with just a few people, but now they have a large network, connecting with many animal protection organizations, both domestically and internationally. However, his group still faced many difficulties. Dog traders are not easy to deal with, Min said, his voice growing serious. They make a living off this, and when they see someone trying to rescue the dogs, they will find a way to stop us. Not only that, but we also face the indifference of many people who do not care about the fate of these animals. After hearing this, Lily's heart felt heavy. It was as though a storm was brewing within her. Still, she didn't want to back down. What she had witnessed today had made her determined to take action. "I will help you," Lily said, her voice firm. "I can't just stand by any longer." Min looked at Lily, a hint of surprise on his face. "You really want to help?" He asked, period. Yes, I cannot just watch. Those dogs do not deserve to suffer like that, Lily replied. Min smiled lightly, but in his eyes there was a mixture of surprise and gratitude. Well then, you can help us, he said. But we will have to act quickly and secretly. If we are discovered, we will be in a lot of danger. Lily didn't hesitate. She had witnessed what she needed to see, and now she felt a great responsibility weighing on her shoulders. She asked Min about the group's plan and how she could participate. Min explained that they needed to go to areas with dog slaughterhouses to buy the dogs that were trapped there. But it wasn't always easy to do that. The dog traders were always on guard and often tried to hide everything when someone approached. We need to have a strategy, Min continued. Every time we rescue a dog, it is a big challenge. We have to find ways to not get discovered. Sometimes, we have to pretend to be customers buying dog meat in order to get close and convince them. Lily felt a bit scared, but she was also very determined. So what will I do? Min looked at Lily, his eyes lighting up. You can help us identify areas where dog slaughterhouses are most active. You can participate in negotiations and try to persuade them to sell the dogs to us, or at least help us gain access to them. Lily nodded. She knew that this journey would not be easy, but the feeling that she was doing something important made it impossible for her to back down. I will do everything I can, she said. Min took Lily to meet a few members of his team. The whole group were animal lovers, all united by the same goal, to rescue innocent dogs and change the society's perception of this issue. Some of the team members were veterinarians, while others were volunteers who had been involved in animal protection for years. The entire group was passionate and believed that, though it would be a long journey, if they worked together, they could make a difference. During the meeting, Lily felt a sense of strength from the team's unity and determination. She no longer felt alone. This feeling made her even more determined to join the journey to rescue the dogs, even though she knew there would be many challenges and dangers ahead. That evening, as Min took Lily back to her hotel, she could not stop thinking about what she had witnessed. The images of the dogs in the metal cages still haunted her mind. She promised herself that she would never return to a quiet life of doing nothing, but would fight to change the fate of the dogs suffering unimaginable pain. The next day, Min's team and Lily prepared for their first rescue mission. But everyone knew that the road ahead would not be easy, and they could only rely on the strength of love and perseverance to overcome all the challenges. The next day, Min's team began preparations for their first rescue. Lily felt a mix of excitement and anxiety in her heart. Everything was happening so quickly, and she couldn't stop thinking about what she would face. But she also understood that if they did not act right away, these dogs would continue to suffer in their cold metal cages. Min took Lily to a small cafe where the group gathered to discuss the detailed plan. The atmosphere in the cafe was quiet, but no one in the group felt at ease. They all knew that this rescue could be very dangerous. But they couldn't back down. We have to act secretly without letting anyone know, Min began, his voice serious. The dog traders are always on guard. If they find us out, not only we but the dogs will be in danger. We need to choose the time and location carefully. Lily felt a bit of fear, but was also very determined. So what will we do? How can I help? She asked, wanting to understand the plan more clearly. Min unfolded a map on the table. He pointed to an area on the outskirts of Hanoi. This is one of the places we will go. It is home to several large slaughterhouses. However, this area is very sensitive. If we are discovered, we could be in immediate danger. The group fell silent. Min continued, we will need to find a way to approach without drawing attention. Ideally, someone from the group can pose as a customer, pretending to buy dog meat so that we can get close to the dogs locked in cages. Lily didn't fully understand everything, but she believed that this was the only way they could rescue the dogs. So, we will have to persuade the dog traders, Lily asked. Min nodded. Yes, some members of the group will try to talk to them, convince them to sell the dogs to us, saying that we just want to keep them as pets. This is a risky plan, but we have no other choice. The group began preparing. They split into smaller teams, each with a specific task. One team would go ahead to assess the situation, while the others would monitor and wait for the right moment to act. Lily followed Min and some of the team members closer to the slaughterhouse area. At that moment, she felt that something was not right. She looked at the dark metal cages along the deserted road where the dogs were trapped. The stench from the cages was overwhelming, making Lily feel nauseous. She could hardly breathe because the air was heavy and filled with fear. As the group got closer, they saw a group of men standing in front of a slaughterhouse. They glanced over and saw the dogs locked in cages. Some dogs looked at them with terrified eyes, while others were too weak to do anything but breathe. The cages were like small coffins, holding innocent lives captive. Lily couldn't help but feel choked up. She wanted to rush in and rescue the dogs immediately, but Min stopped and took her hand, gently saying, "We need to be patient. Don't rush. If we act too quickly, it will draw attention and put everyone in danger." Lily nodded, though her heart was uneasy. She understood that rescuing these dogs was an extremely difficult task, but she could not give up. She felt a new sense of strength rising within her, as if she was no longer just a regular tourist, but part of the group, part of this battle. After an hour of waiting in silence, Min's team began to act. They split up, each person with a specific task. Min and another person approached a dog trader and started a conversation. Lily watched from a distance, not daring to take her eyes off the unfolding events. Suddenly, one of the traders turned and looked at their group with suspicion. Min immediately approached him and started talking. Meanwhile, Lily could feel the tension rising. She held her breath, fearing that even the smallest mistake could cause everything to fall apart. Time seemed to stretch on endlessly. Then something unexpected happened. The dog trader nodded and gestured for them to approach the cages. Lily couldn't believe her eyes. They had successfully convinced him. But that was just the beginning. Now, they had to act quickly and carefully. With every passing second, danger grew nearer. Could they rescue all the dogs without encountering any risks? Lily couldn't predict what would happen next, but one thing she was sure of: they had entered a battle that they couldn't walk away from. The rescue mission began to take a tense turn. As Min's group approached the cages, Lily could feel the excitement and nervousness in the air. She stood still, her eyes never leaving the dogs, who were looking at them with pleading eyes. It felt like time was slowing down, as if every second was a battle between hope and despair. Min and the others in the group started to open the cages. Each dog that was freed looked terrified, but there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes. The dogs were dirty and weak, but at least they were free once again. Lily felt her heart warm as she saw them being liberated. However, this calm did not last long. Suddenly, a noise echoed from afar, footsteps and loud voices. Min quickly signaled for the group to stop and be silent. "They are coming," Min whispered. Lily could feel the tension in Min's voice. A new wave of fear began to rise in her heart. Their group had only just started rescuing a few dogs, but if they were discovered, all their efforts would be in vain. She held her breath, her eyes scanning the entrance to the slaughterhouse area. A group of men was walking toward them, their gazes full of suspicion. "We can't stop now. We have to continue," Min said quietly, his eyes fixed on the approaching men. "You and a few people in the group will get the dogs into the truck. I and a few others will create a distraction. Hurry." Lily's heart raced. She had never imagined she would be in such a dangerous situation. But there was no time to be scared. She knew that if they did not act fast, everything would fall apart. She and a few others quickly began moving, loading the dogs into the group's truck. Each step felt heavy, but she did her best to stay calm. As they were almost done loading the dogs into the truck, someone in the group shouted, "They are getting closer." Panic spread through the group. Min signaled for everyone to stop and hide in the darkness. Some of the group hid behind large tarps and old vehicles, while Lily and another person tried to remain silent, shielding the dogs. The entire area became eerily quiet. All that could be heard were the heavy breaths of the group and the rustling of the dogs trembling in the truck. The group of men stopped near them, their eyes scanning the area with suspicion. One of them, likely the owner of the slaughterhouse, stepped closer. Lily's heart pounded as she tried to remain still. If they were discovered, they would all be caught, and the dogs would have no chance of surviving. 1 minute passed like an eternity. Then one of the vendors started arguing with the men. "I don't see any one of you here," he said, his voice full of suspicion. "What are you doing here?" Ming quickly stepped out from the shadows, calmly responding, "We are just passing through. We wanted to learn more about the food here." The response seemed unconvincing, but fortunately, the group of men did not ask any further questions. They just glanced over and continued walking forward. A minute later, they had disappeared into the darkness. Lily exhaled a sigh of relief. She could hardly believe her eyes. The group exchanged silent glances, no one daring to speak. They had escaped once, but the danger was far from over. Everyone quickly resumed getting the dogs into the truck and preparing to leave. However, just as the group was about to board the truck, an unexpected incident occurred. A loud noise came from behind, and another group of men appeared from the shadows. This time, they had realized something was wrong. "Run!" exclamation. Min shouted, and the entire group rushed into the truck. Lily felt as if her heart had dropped to the bottom of her stomach. At that moment, the group of men charged toward them, shouting loudly. The group began to run frantically, crossing the dark road. The dogs in the truck also became panicked, barking loudly, creating a chaotic scene. Would they be able to escape the pursuit? The answer was still uncertain. But one thing Lily was sure of: they had overcome a major challenge and would not stop until these dogs were safe. Min and Lily's group raced down the dark road, the dim headlights of the truck only adding to the tension in the air. This time, they were no longer relaxed. Behind them, the heavy footsteps of the group of men chasing them made it impossible for anyone to slow down. The dogs in the truck were barking loudly, confused by what was happening, only knowing that everything around them was becoming increasingly dangerous. Lily sat in the truck, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked out the window, seeing the figures of the men chasing them, running and waving their arms, shouting loudly. They had discovered their group, and now they were determined not to let anyone escape. "Go faster!" Min shouted through the window, his eyes locked ahead as if he wanted the truck to fly. "We do not have much time." Lily felt so tense that it was hard to breathe. She turned to look at the dogs in the truck, still panicking. Some were trembling, some were biting the chains, but all of them shared the overwhelming fear. Lily told herself that she could not let anything happen to them. She had to do everything to get them out of there safely. Min had driven the truck into narrower roads, trying to turn through alleyways to escape the pursuers. But this only made things more dangerous. The narrower the roads became, the darker it got, and the houses on either side seemed to appear suddenly, as if they wanted to swallow the truck whole. "Maybe we should split into two groups!" Exclamation mark. One member of the group suggested from the back. "One group will go back and distract them, while the other group will take the dogs through a different route." Min glanced at Lily and the others. He nodded in agreement, but there was an unmistakable worry in his eyes. They didn't have much time. Letting the pursuers catch up meant they would all be exposed. "We need to split into two groups," Min ordered quickly. "Lily, you will go with Mai and Dewey. You guys take this route. Hurry!" Lily didn't have time to think much. She just nodded and jumped out of the truck with Mai and Dewey. Meanwhile, Min and the others would turn back to create the distraction. Lily only heard the sound of the truck speeding away, fading in the growl of the engine. She looked at Mai and Dewey, who did not say anything, but their eyes were filled with tension. "Move faster," Dewey whispered, his eyes fixed on the front, where the narrow road seemed to have no way out. Lily's group continued running through the dark streets, not daring to stop for even a second. Each time they turned into a smaller alley, it felt like they were entering a maze with no exit. But when Lily looked at the trembling dogs in the truck, she felt that no matter how dangerous it got, she could not give up. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out behind them. Lily turned around and saw a shadowy figure emerging from the distance. Another truck was speeding toward them, its headlights shining directly at their group. It was the group of men who had been chasing them before. They had found the way and were closing in quickly. Lily's heart tightened. "Faster! We can't let them catch us," Mai shouted, urging everyone to run even faster. The three of them started running like never before, through the narrow and winding roads. Every step, every moment was as tense as if they were racing against time. Every second that passed was another moment of danger. They had to get to safety before the other group caught up. A few minutes passed, and Lily's group began to feel the exhaustion. The dogs in the truck kept barking, adding to the tension for everyone. But Lily didn't dare to think about being tired. She knew they only had one chance to escape from the pursuers. Finally, just as the other truck was nearly on their tail, Mai turned sharply into a narrow road no one thought would lead anywhere. The road became even narrower, just enough for one vehicle to pass through. Lily felt suffocated as the other truck stayed close behind, only a few meters away. But at that moment, something miraculous happened. Suddenly, the road led to an open area, an empty plot of land with no one around. Lily's group had escaped, but would this getaway be long enough for them to get the dogs to safety? The feeling of worry and tension still weighed heavily on Lily's heart. The situation had changed, but the danger was far from over. Would they be able to escape safely? Or would they have to face an even more intense chase? After turning onto the narrow road, Lily's group finally found a temporary hiding place. It was a desolate area, with abandoned houses and tall weeds, as if this place had been forgotten for a long time. Lily exhaled a sigh of relief, but she knew this was only temporary. Everything wasn't over, and they couldn't relax knowing that the group of men was still hunting them. "We have to figure out how to move on," Min said softly, focusing on the group. "They definitely won't give up." The whole group nodded. Lily turned to look at the dogs in the truck. They were still trembling, scared, but at least they were no longer in the cramped cages. The sense of relief in her heart lasted only for a moment before being replaced by anxiety. These dogs needed care, and they had to keep moving. But would they have enough time to do that before being discovered? Min started making plans for the next step. "We need a safer place, somewhere no one can find us," he said, his voice low and serious. "We might have to move into a smaller village." As the group prepared to move, Lily heard a sound from the distance. A motorcycle, then another vehicle. They were getting closer. And this time, it might be the dog traffickers who had figured out their direction. Their group no longer had time. They had to move immediately. "Hurry up, we cannot stay here long," Min said, and the group sprang into action. Lily had no choice. She had to follow the group, even though fear still gripped her. She ran alongside Mai and Dewey, all of them looking for a way to quickly move on to another path. The more they went, the more they realized that escaping these roads would not be easy. The narrow, winding paths only made things harder. They had to find a way to distract the pursuers and keep moving. Suddenly, a scream came from behind. "Someone spotted us," one of the group members said, eyes wide, looking back. A group of men had appeared at the end of the road, racing toward Lily's group at full speed. Lily's group had no more options. They had been discovered. Lily's heart stopped. She quickly looked for an escape, but the road had become narrow, with fewer choices. She saw the headlights getting closer. "Run!" Min yelled, and the group sprinted into a small alley. But this escape route was even narrower. The whole group ran like they had never run before, not daring to look back. Their footsteps echoed in the dark night, but the sound of the vehicles behind them never lessened. Lily felt exhausted, but she knew that if they stopped, they would be caught. She couldn't let the dogs fall into the hands of the animal traffickers. Everything she was doing, all the risks, was just to save them. Finally, when it seemed like they could not endure any longer, Min suddenly spotted a small path to the right. He shouted, "Turn here!" The whole group immediately swerved. It was an old road, unclear where it led, but there was no other option. They dashed into the narrow, dark path, and the vehicles behind them could not keep up. After running quite a distance, the group stopped in a sparse forest area. Min pulled a map from his backpack and began looking for the next direction. "We need to get to a safer place, farther from this area," he said. "For now, we will rest here for a few hours to assess the situation." But just as the group began to rest, one person in the group suddenly spoke up. "Can you hear that?" The sound of vehicles. Lily and the group exchanged worried looks. It couldn't be true. Those dog traffickers had found them. They had figured out the group's direction. This time, they would not let it go easily. And then, when everyone was preparing for an unavoidable confrontation, something unexpected happened. A police car appeared from a distance, and Lily's group couldn't believe they were getting help from the authorities. But would this help come in time? Or would they have to make tough decisions to save the dogs and keep themselves safe? That question hung in the air as the tension escalated more than ever. Lily and her group stood in the dark, their breaths heavy, hearts racing. The sound of the police car's engine grew louder, but they didn't dare exhale. Min and the others were tense, no one daring to speak. Only the whistling of the wind and the barking of the dogs, scared in the truck, filled the dark night. The police car stopped right in front of the group. The door opened, and an officer stepped out. He looked at Lily's group before turning to Min. "What are you doing here?" he asked sternly. Min stepped forward, speaking calmly, but his eyes never left the officer. "We are rescuing these dogs from a cruel place. We haven't done anything wrong." The officer looked at the truck full of panicked dogs, then turned back to Min and the group. He was silent for a moment, then finally sighed. "I know what is going on. But rescuing isn't always easy." He paused, raising a hand to his mouth as if thinking, then continued, "Follow me. But do not make any noise, or we will get into trouble." Lily looked at Min, then at the dogs in the truck. They were so close, yet they were not safe yet. "What do we do next?" Lily whispered. Min turned to look at her, then lowered his voice. "We will follow this police officer. He might help us get the dogs out. But if we make a mistake, we could be in even bigger trouble." Lily's group agreed and moved along with the police officer. They crossed small roads, heading into a less traveled area. After a while, they stopped in front of a small house. "We will stay here for now," the officer said. "This is a safe place. Just wait for a while, and we will be able to get you and the dogs out of here." Lily felt a bit of relief, but she still could not fully relax. Everything still felt unfinished. She looked at the dogs in the truck and felt their fear. One by one, each of them looked at her with eyes full of hope, as if pleading for help. An hour passed, and Lily's group started to think that they might have escaped the danger. But suddenly, a loud noise from outside startled everyone. Min and the police officer immediately ran outside. The group quickly followed. Lily felt her body tense. She saw a group of people, and among them were the ones the group had tried to escape from earlier. They had found their hideout and were heading toward the house. "Run!" Min shouted. The group rushed to jump into the vehicle, but the police officer was already there, stopping them. "Don't run, I'll handle this," he said. Lily felt suffocated, unsure of what would happen next. The men were getting closer, and their patience was running out. They started shouting, demanding that Lily's group return the dogs. The officer turned to face the group, his eyes sharp as a knife. "If you want to fight, we can settle this right now. But if not, stop and back off." Everyone fell silent, no one daring to say anything more. The officer stood in between, creating a barrier for Lily's group. In the end, the other group had no choice but to retreat. They hissed through their teeth, but did not dare do anything further. Lily's group was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. The officer led them inside the house, which had already been prepared for them and the dogs. Some members of the group started caring for the dogs, replacing their water and food. Lily sat down next to a small dog, gently stroking it and feeling the temporary peace. "We made it," Min said softly, his eyes filled with both joy and exhaustion. These dogs will have a new life. Lily smiled, feeling a strange sense of happiness. Even though their journey had been filled with challenges, they had succeeded. They had saved innocent lives, but the story didn't end here. Their journey was far from over. And in Lily's heart, she knew that the fight to protect animals would continue, not just in Vietnam, but all around the world. With a determined look, Lily stood up, gazing out the window where the first light of dawn was slowly beginning to shine. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the best stories. See you in the next one.